It's bringing Brian Billick. And by the way, did you hear the Pro Bowl, according to the mothership, is they're going to suspend the Pro Bowl, Brian?
Yeah, you know what? I did the Pro Bowl 2 years ago for Fox, and it's a great time. Everybody enjoys it, but that product on the field, I don't know. You kind of knew something was headed this way because I don't know that the NFL wants to put that product that we've seen the last few years in the Pro Bowl back on the field.
Well, you just found guys who want to be named to the Pro Bowl. They didn't want to play in it, and you got to decide what you want. If you want an exhibition, then let them go out and have some fun, but make it two-hand touch or flag football, not that. Because I think that better chance of guys getting injured when you're trying not to get injured.
Yeah, and the nature of the game, it doesn't lend itself to an all-star game. Basketball, baseball, you can do that. You can go out and go play an all-star game and let it be 160 to 150, because you're going to shoot it up and you're not going to risk the injury. And baseball can kind of be the same way, and it's kind of fun. But the physical nature, the contact nature of football, to think that you can do a legitimate all-star game, and I don't care how much you crank up the payoffs to the players, that's not a product you want to put on the field.
And let me dive into some of the draft day stuff that we have, and now the rumors start of who's moving up to number 3. I want you to be the GM of the Vikings right now. What are you doing with that third pick?
Well, the Vikings, I think, have finally realized they're in full rebuild mode. They tried to hold it off for a while. You're still a playoff team, obviously, with the Favre thing. They got to start wrapping things around Christian Ponder. They extended themselves in terms of that first overall pick for them last year, number 12 for Christian Ponder. They got to rebuild this team. And they have a lot of needs. There's nothing they can't take that they don't need. So it goes back to is it worth the one tackle? And you're talking the left tackle. I think they ought to take Matt Khalil. The old adage, I always live by the old adage, you don't trade out of a blue chip spot because there's only so many of them, and hopefully you only have so many shots at that because you're not down there very often. But they have needs, and if there's value there and they can think they can get enough picks, pick up some extra picks on a draft that seems to be fairly strong, then I can certainly understand them trading away. Personally, I'd hold on to Matt Khalil.
Give me the player you have the least questions about.
Well, that's exactly, that's the very definition of a blue chip player. Our definition of a blue chip player in years for Baltimore was the cleanest player on the board. The two quarterbacks, I can't remember a quarterback, let alone two quarterbacks that had fewer questions about their ability to play than Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin. Now, that's no guarantee. Yeah, there could be a bust, and history says usually one will, but with these two guys, I don't know. Trent Richardson is as clean a running back as we've had this high. The only thing that pushes a Trent Richardson down is the fact the way we devalue the running back position. At that point, it then becomes, even though I think Morris Claiborne is a blue chip player, I like Matt Khalil, Justin Blackman, there are lingering or just that little bit of qualifier when you're talking about those guys, although I think they're going to be good players. I don't question their ability to play. Khalil's going to be a solid left tackle. Morris Claiborne, it's not the quote-unquote shutdown corner, but I don't know that exists anymore. And Justin Blackman, he was interesting. This is a guy you love on film. Then you see him in the flesh, and you see him work out, and you're a little disappointed. He's not as big and physical and as fast as you think he is, but then you go back to the film, and he's a beast, and you love him on the film again. So it's going to be fun to see where he goes.
Yeah, and I said the same thing when I saw Justin Blackman, 2 nights ago in New York, and I thought, wow, that's going to be a star wide receiver, and he just doesn't seem that big. But what I loved about him is when he catches the ball, he knows how to score touchdowns, and there's an innate ability to do that. Not everybody can, and I have to factor that in. But you also get guys who fall in love with somebody, and I don't know, as a coach or GM, can you fall in love with somebody before the draft?
Yeah, you can, and you got to kind of remove yourself emotionally from it. Let's contrast it to Justin Blackman, Michael Floyd from Notre Dame. That's a guy just on the flip side. A lot of people, when you meet this kid in terms of his physicality and his size and the way he runs, you fall in love with the kid. But then you go back to the film and you come away a little wanting. Just the opposite of Blackman. You met the kid, and I think it was not that you're not impressed with him physically, Blackman I'm talking about, but you expected him to be bigger based on what you saw of the film.
But doesn't Notre Dame make all their players look slower?
Yeah,
right?
By law, I think they have to.
Like they always look slower than what I mean. Rocket Ismail looks slow, I guess, with Notre Dame. It's amazing. You had guys who go in there and they seem like they're slower on that turf. I don't know. I felt that way with Floyd.
The hard thing with Floyd is that then you go back to the film, and you, like I said, you come away just a little wanting. Doesn't mean he's not going to be good, but ultimately you have to go back to that film. The problem with coaches, and the scouts will tell you this, and they get frustrated because the coaches have a more limited view. Naturally, the scouts are doing it 365 days a year. The coaches are coaching, and then they get into it in the off season. It's real easy as a coach to fall in love with the guy because you have a limited perspective. You really see what this guy can do for you right now, as opposed to the more long term. So you got to guard against that a little bit.
Ultimately, who has the final say in the draft room, war room?
It varies from club to club. In some instances, like a Jerry Jones, clearly, and that's a rare one where the owner obviously has the final say. Does he exhibit it? Well, Jerry Jones does because he's involved with it on a day-to-day basis. It's become a general manager's league. For the most part, it's the general manager that, you can debate and go back and forth. But
were you overruled?
Oh, absolutely, and that's the way it should have been because Ozzie Newsome was just the guy to kind of run the draft for us and have that final say. Ozzie would listen, would scrim it around, would even dog cuss each other a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's like play calling. There has to be that singular play caller. Now, there are coaches that do that. I mean, obviously Bill Belichick makes the final say. I think Mike Shanahan has that final say. So it varies from club to club.
But do you ever bring it up after the fact that I wanted him or I had to take this guy, or it's brought up and thrown back in your face?
No, you have to do post-critique. I'm talking year after year. Everybody's got to look at, we took this guy, where were we wrong? Or we didn't take this guy, where were we wrong? Why didn't we? You have to do that analysis all the time.
But you guys traded up to get Kyle Bowler.
Correct. And the operative word there is we traded up to get Kyle Bowler.
Did you want Kyle Bowler?
Yes, I did. I was on board with that. I wouldn't begin to sit here and say, no, that, and put that on Ozzie or Phil Savage. But it is an organizational decision, even though as a coach, you're going to be held accountable for it.
The first Pro Bowl player. Who will be the first Pro Bowl player out of this draft?
Oh, gosh, obviously the back-end guys that are always a surprise, but on the front-end guys, I don't know that either one of these quarterbacks, because they're going to, particularly Luck, is going to go into a tough situation. I could see a Trent Richardson because he's going to go to a team that will probably highlight him. They're going to take a trip like a Cleveland. So he's going to get the touches. They're going to use him to go forward with it. I think a guy like Mark Barron, the safety, because of the impact that the safeties have on the game today, could find himself in a Pro Bowl earlier. I think those for a defensive lineman, offensive lineman, it's almost impossible. In order to make a Pro Bowl as a rookie, you have to have those quantifiable stats, I think, to get everybody's attention. So I think a guy like Trent Richardson or maybe a Mark Barron.
Good to visit with you, Brian. Thanks for joining us.
All right, sounds great.
All right, Brian Billick, NFL on Fox, NFL Network.